Welcome to From a Woman to a Leader, a podcast dedicated to discussing the challenges and providing tips for women in tech leadership. Hi, I'm your host, Limor Bergman-Gross, and in each episode, we'll hear from other successful women in tech, sharing their stories, insights, and advice. Join us as we empower each other to reach our full potential in the tech industry. Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader. And today I have great pleasure to talk to DiGeronimo, and the subject we're going to talk about is the Playbook for Corporate Culture, Accelerating Your Impact in Tech. And JJ, after spending 25 years in the tech world, found herself at a crossroads, questioning her career and feeling like her worst enemy. But she didn't stop there. Instead, she embarked on a transformative journey of self-discovery, and she wrote 3 books, and I think another one is coming on the way. So I will let you, JJ, introduce yourself, because you'll probably do a much better job than I am. So hi and welcome.
Hello. I'm so honored to be joining you right now. You and I do a lot of similar work. We're all about advancing women, and specifically women in tech and STEM. I've spent 25 years in the tech industry, and I decided to jump out, not because I didn't love the career or didn't love the work, but I was really called to create assets for women that are looking to get to that next level in their career, but don't know how to do it.
Absolutely. And what was kind of the turning point from you that led you to change your career and writing your latest book? Actually, you had 2 books before that. What was kind of the turning point for you to make the decision?
Yeah, well, I have to say I had gone through my own ups and downs, my own career, and my own life and work is what really spawns the interest of the work that I'm doing. And, my first book was really created after having kids and holding an executive position and trying to manage that, which was so challenging. My second book was really based on being in the industry for 15 years, having a very technical background, but I couldn't get back into the tech space after I had children. I took a sales role. And so my second career book is really about how do you move from that no to that yes, and the difference of working in and on your career. And then my third book, which just came out last year, is really about how do you find fulfillment in your work? Because I think a lot of us are striving so much to get there and get it and get to a certain level or pay grade or title. And many of us find even once we get there, we still are pretty unfulfilled.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing. And in this book, you discuss the importance of maneuvering the professional landscape. So can you elaborate on that and share some practical strategies for our listeners?
Oh my goodness. Of course I can. So first of all, there's a true difference of working in your career and on your career. And I think a lot of people think that if they get through their to-do list and they pull the project across the line, they're going to get that next step in their career, which generally happens between 20 and 30 years old. Not really a problem, but after the age of 35, women really struggle getting that next step. That's why so many women are stuck in middle management, because they don't realize that you have to work on your career. And that means you have to have visible access to people that make decisions. You often have to be aligned to certain projects. You generally have to have more than a mentor, right? You have to have sponsors. And you generally have to be able to share your accomplishments with metric-based numbers, whether it's how you advance the revenue, the brand, the operations. You have to be able to talk the talk of why and how you're impactful to the business. And those are just 4 of the ways that women can get caught up in their own career progression.
Yeah, and I can very much relate to that because I've been there. I've felt stuck a lot of times, and I had to kind of really make conscious decision where I wanted my career to grow to and lead myself there. And you mentioned kind of, finding sponsors. Can you provide some advice how women can identify and connect with sponsors effectively?
Yeah, 92% of women do not have sponsors, and sponsors are more than mentors. Sponsors are people that use their social capital to help you. So it's generally people that'll make a phone call for you, put you on a short list, maybe drop by the hiring manager's office or drop in their inbox and say, hey, you really should consider this person. It's somebody who knows who you are, understands your metrics, milestones, or like accomplishments or even what you've contributed to the organization. And they also understand where and how you want to move through the business.
Yeah, definitely. And I believe it's all about building relationships and being helpful also, right? I mean, not just looking at what they can help you with, but also what you can help them with.
Yes, very much. In fact, in this book, Accelerate Your Impact, it really is about getting to that next career step. And I have many, many charts in the book. And one of the book charts are just as you mentioned. So it lists the projects that you're aligned to, the potential mentor or sponsor, how they could help you, how you could help them. And do you need it now or later?
Perfect. And I see there are a lot of kind of those colored marks. Can you talk about them a little bit? What are they marking exactly in your book?
Oh gosh, well, I will just go to some of them. I mean, some of them are just some of my favorite charts. So, I have charts throughout the entire book, as you can see,
Uh-huh.
and it really is ways to quickly move through a lot of information for you to determine, are you on the right path? Are you aligned with the right work? One of the most popular charts is the project chart. And the project chart helps you go through all the projects you're working on to identify not only what is your current impact, but is it a stretch project? Do you have P&L experience? What type of headcount? Do you have visual exposure to executives that can help you move through your career? Because what I find is a lot of women are working on a lot of projects, but most of them are doing the same thing in all the projects. Maybe they don't have direct P&L experience. Maybe they don't have line of sight to decision makers, or maybe they don't even really know why the project matters.
Yeah, I know. And a lot of times we do busy work to help others advance instead of advancing ourselves. And that's also, I feel like, critical to identify when sometimes we are used as pawns for someone else's career progression. And I can share that at least from personal experience that it happened to me. And I had to realize that, well, I'm not doing something I like, and I'm not doing something that will help me advance. Can you relate?
Yes. Oh my goodness. I have a chart in here called the power of no. And the first column are all your commitments. The second column is labeled requester. And requester is who's asking you to do that commitment. Because I too have experienced that where I helped so many other people get ahead while I was sitting in the same role.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Seems like you have a chart for pretty much any challenge that that a woman can face. That sounds incredible. That sounds very helpful.
It's been award, it has so many awards. And really what it is to make you feel more normal, that all of us struggle with this at some point in our life. And without a playbook, without really understanding how to make it happen, it can be pretty lonely. And you can feel like you're running uphill all the time. And so I really wanted to normalize the feeling for women, but also give them tools that they can act upon right away, which is not a lot. It's not like having to do all this stuff every day. It's what can you do each week? One of my favorite tips is on Fridays to send yourself an email. Send yourself an email with metrics. What did you push forward? What are you having challenges with? Who did you connect with? What is mattering for you this week? And what are you proud of? Because when we have to do 360 reviews or any type of reviews, or even applying for that next position, we often have to write things up about ourselves or document things that we've done. And it's hard to remember in that moment what's happened over the last 12 months.
Yeah, that's for sure. I wish also that companies would do that more often, those reviews. I mean, at least I used to do them every 6 months, even at some companies every quarter. I mean, it feels like it's even harder for managers to remember all the things that their employee did over a 1 year period. You always tend to look at the last maybe month or two and forget what happens before that. It feels like too long of a period of time to even
It
have that
is.
top of mind.
Yeah, and that's why it's good to send yourself an email, have a folder in your inbox, like weeklies, I called it. And I would just document what I did. And it was amazing how many things I actually got done, even in the first quarter of the year, that I would forget by the fourth quarter. Making sure you're documenting your path not only just for your own review, but if you want to have stories, because oftentimes interviews are based on stories. So you got to tell a story of how you've accomplished something. And it's hard to remember all those things. But before your interview, you could just go through all those emails and pick out 4 or 5 projects and a related story so that you can then show your work, show how you think, show how you move projects. Because a lot of people, when they're interviewing, they just want to take the risk out of the hire. So the more you can show what you're doing is so instrumental. And I even believe bringing a binder to say, like, hey, here's some of the projects I worked on, and have a story for each thing you put in there. Because when you bring a binder to interviews, one, you stand out, and two, you can kind of minimize that risk for people because you're showing them their work, your work.
Yeah, I haven't thought about that. Definitely, but I definitely agree that stories are very powerful. People can relate to stories. It makes it more interesting. Definitely, stories are powerful. And tell us, JJ, about your community, Tech Savvy Women.
This is a LinkedIn group. It's just a group that women in tech around the world come into. It's an approval. Like, I go through every single person that wants to come in. I want to make sure they're in the tech industry. I want to make sure they're not a bot. And I want to make sure they're not selling things to us. If they want to highlight a project or a program, fine, but I don't want to see the same email 65 times. So I manage the group Tech Savvy Women on LinkedIn. And if you're a woman in tech and you just kind of want to see different initiatives, programming, free courses, opportunities, it's a great group to join because there's just a little bit of everything in there.
Wow, that's great. Yes, and community is very important because a lot of times you need to find like-minded people and get support or advice or just relate to someone else.
It is. It is. And I think for women in tech, it's still hard. It's still hard. You're still the only woman on the team. And, you're on a slippery slope at times. You want to get ahead, but you don't want to be too boisterous. And, oftentimes people get overshadowed by women sometimes, especially these days with all the D&I events. It's a tricky situation. So finding groups of women that you can relate to is so important. And that's honestly how I started Tech Savvy. I just invited 12 women to get together for wine. I invited Microsoft, HP, IBM, Cisco. I worked at VMware. And we just got together to talk about how are you keeping everything going. And that LinkedIn group that's now almost 10,000 women started with 12 women. And so you can just start something off the side of your desk that empowers you, that you feel inspired by, that fills you up or gives you energy. And it doesn't have to be something that's super well thought out. You can just get it started.
Yeah, and it's incredible, to hear a story, right? It started from 12 and it got to 10,000. Every small step in the way grows to something huge, to something big. So just take one step forward every single day.
And that's really what my next book, Seeking, is about, because I found that I needed to figure out like what inspired me. I was so busy driving to what other people thought I should do. I had aspirations to get to the CXO level. And I just found that I had another calling in life. I had something different. So, I did a lot of soul searching. Why am I being called out of tech? Why is this happening? And most of that happened off the side of my desk. I started the women's group in 2008. I wrote my first book in 2010. I didn't leave my tech job until 2014. So for 6 years, I just did things off the side of my desk.
Yeah, and I can very much relate to that. I felt also that I have a different calling. I wasn't, to be honest, I was afraid of leaving like the comfort and stability of a high-paying job, and I wasn't even sure where to start, to be honest.
And what do you think was, looking back on it now, what do you think happened that you weren't expecting?
I mean, I think that I realized that I have to start. I just have to start and realize along the way. At the beginning, when I left, I wasn't sure what exactly I'm going to do. But I think having that, being okay with the unknown and letting go of anxiety, trying to put that aside, the fear of the unknown, and just start, as you said, like taking steps, experimenting. I learned that, yes, when you just start doing, things eventually will happen.
Isn't that amazing? And like, do you wish you would have started sooner?
It's hard to say. I don't regret. I think that that's part of probably the journey I had to go through. If I looked back years ago, maybe I should have done something different, but eventually that's what happened, and that's okay. I mean, I try to look back and not kind of be focused on regret rather than all the experiences that I gained that led me to who I am today.
That makes so much sense. I think that for many of us, we're exactly where we need to be. We just have to know what lesson we're in. And I'm always like, what is the lesson? What am I supposed to learn?
Yes, absolutely. Especially when things happen to us that are maybe seems like a bad thing, right? And a lot of people are being laid off, losing their jobs, or something bad happens. Maybe you work in an environment is not suitable for you. You have a lot of bias against you. You work with manager you don't, it's very hard for you to work with, and all those eventually are opportunities to be stronger and to do something better, to grow from that.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And I tell people that too, is like you have to remember life is happening for you and you're not a victim of your circumstances. Your whole role is figuring out why. Why are things happening? Are you supposed to be leaning into something else? Because sometimes we lose that job and it is unexpected, but it's because the universe is trying to usher us along to the next thing.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And a lot of times from this crisis, we grow and we find something better, whether it will be another job, maybe change. You mentioned you change, right, to sales. So sometimes, those changes are good for us, for our growth.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. When I had to move into sales because I had young kids and I needed to take them to the doctors all the time and I just couldn't keep my traveling job. But I'll tell you, sales is one of the best jobs I've ever had because it gets me really comfortable with the word no. And that was super instrumental in my publishing because my third book, I got 6 no's on the book and I would have never written it. But because I had been in sales and learned that no was just kind of like that person's opinion or that time in life, I just kind of put it in my back pocket and I say, I'm just going to collect my nose and eventually I'll get a yes. And now I'm going to be helping other women get published because I had such a hard time. And so I think that there is a silver lining in the nose.
Yes, I think in essence we are all salespeople because we have to sell ourselves all the time, and I can tell you that I feel a lot of times uncomfortable with even the word "sell." That I need to sell myself, but we have to do it. We have to do it whether we work for someone, for an employer, or we have our own business. We have to sell. Sell is not a dirty word. Sell is a great skill to have, and being resilient to hearing no is also very, very important.
Yes, yes. And I just want to reiterate the sales piece. It's like if you think you add value, if you're bringing value to the table, it's really just about making room or getting that seat at the table to share that value. And that's the way I view it now is like I've done so much work in this area of women and tech and DEI and authors that I believe I have a lot to offer people that are starting in the process or even in the middle. And so I have to believe enough in myself to get that seat at the table.
Yeah, and share a little bit about this, about the book publishing, because that that is a personal interest of mine. I mean, do you help others, publish books?
Yeah. So now built a whole team of resources of people that help me get books published. And it's actually better for women not to go under a big publishing arm because even if they give you an advance, you still have to pay that advance back if you don't sell, 10, 20, 30,000 books, which can be challenging because most people sell less than 300 books. So with my books, I've sold over combined the two about 14,000, which wasn't enough to get a big publisher. So I had to go out and find a new way to go to market. And it was great because one, I would have never gotten the cover I wanted. I have very short chapters because I like to finish a chapter when I start reading it, which so they're 3 to 4 pages. And I think if all my books are written for women that want to get to the next step of whatever they're striving for. And I think for many of us, we are in a masculine world, all the Myers-Briggs, the Strength Finders, all the business books, leadership books, most of them are written by men. And so a lot of us are not taught to tap into our knowing, to tap into our inner wisdom. And I feel like there's a lot more women out there that want to write. And so I am working on creating course to show them all the resources that I've used. They can use my resources or not, but I will tell them how to get it done because I feel like that's the hardest part of publishing is you got to get this person and this person and this person. You got to spend this money and do this. And I think it'd be nice just to have somebody kind of say, here's what you have to do, A to Z. You can pick any of the things I've done, or you can develop them your own. This is what you need to get done. And I think that will help get more women's books in the world.
Yes, absolutely. And I can tell you that I'm thinking about it, procrastinating about it for a long time. And yes, I feel overwhelmed. I don't know where to start.
Well, I would say start writing. If anyone who has a book that's listening or wants to write a book, start writing the stories because books are stories. So just start thinking about, you could even document, these are the 10 things I want to talk about: strength, resilience, self-doubt, compassion, leadership, whatever the words are. It doesn't matter. Just kind of write all the words down that you're interested in. And I have a whole book of words that I've done. And then start thinking about the stories you want to tell around those words. Or if that doesn't work for you, start writing about stories that were super meaningful to you and things that helped you shift or think about things differently or really pivoted you in a totally different direction. Write those stories down and just start writing every morning. Even if you give yourself 20 minutes, just start writing. And by doing that, you'll start to get the content you need for your chapters.
Yeah, that sounds like a great start. And when do you plan to publish your course?
Oh, in the beginning of the year, in January. So it'll be good
Oh,
timing for you because it'll be just like, this is what you need to know. I just wish someone would have told me, because my first book took me 2.5 years. My second book took me about 2 years, and my third book took me 2 years too. So if I can help shorten that window for people, I think that would be amazing.
absolutely. Yeah, that will be amazing. Wow, it's so great to talk to you. Any kind of last word of wisdom to women listening in that you want to share?
Well, I would say first of all, if I'm able to write books, then I'm mostly math minded, if you can imagine, right? And, if I'm able to switch lanes and go from programming routers and building data centers to writing books and inspiring women in business, anybody listening can do anything that is on their heart. All you need to do is create time and alignment for where you want to go. And you can follow me. I've got tons of content out there, but the idea is that you are the only one that can say yes to you. And so if you get so busy doing everyone else's to-dos, you'll never find time for the things that are important to you.
That's wonderful. And JJ, how can people find you?
Well, LinkedIn's great. That's how we met. So LinkedIn, JJ DiGeronimo, or you can search in Google for Seeking and the number 74 and JJ, and you'll find my books on Amazon. So hopefully we'll connect.
Absolutely. We'll connect if we're not connected yet, and post the links on this episode to your books and everything that you want to share. And thank you so much for being here today, JJ.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of From a Woman to a Leader. This is your host, Limor Bergman Gross, and I want to encourage you to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Limor Bergman, and let me know, what do you think about the episodes? Feel free also to comment on Apple Podcasts and tell me, what do you want me to talk about? Which guests do you want me to bring? I really appreciate that, and have a wonderful day.